Transport of gases, exchange of gases was completed. Now transport of gases. Transport of gases may transport of oxygen and transport of carbon dioxide. So here transport of oxygen, it is transported in two methods. One is as dissolved O2 3% only, and second method is through RBC 97%. Here this is the major share or major percentage it is. So majorly oxygen transported through RBC. Okay, so this is O2 transport. Next one, carbon dioxide CO2 transported in three methods. First one as dissolved CO2, and as carbamino compounds, as bicarbonate ions. So here three methods may least method I as dissolved CO2. Next one as carbamino compounds, second highest 20 to 25%, and third method as bicarbonate ions, that is 70%. So in these three methods it will be going to transfer. So now we can see that only first method, oxygen transportation through the two methods. Yes, oxygen transportation, here two methods. Now minor method here it is, that is dissolved form it is, as dissolved form it is. So dissolved form only 3% it is, and this dissolved form 3% here in the picture is mentioned with separate color. Clearly we mentioned this one. Next, remaining 97%, that is through the RBC, that is nothing but hemoglobin it is. So these two methods, first one is a dissolved form and in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin bole to that is through RBC. Okay, now we can see this. Next slide. First method, dissolved form, as we know that previously oxygen and carbon dioxide able to dissolve and it will be get diffused to the tissues. Second method is major method. Now we are going to concentrate on second method as oxyhemoglobin. So before going to open that second method, we should know the basic information about RBC hemoglobin. So here hemoglobin is a red color iron containing pigment. So here it is red color, and one more thing is there, iron containing. Which pigment it is? Okay, so conjugated protein, actually it is pigment which is a conjugated protein present in the RBCs. Due to the presence of this hemoglobin, red pigment, RBCs are red in color, blood is in a red in color. That's why blood is known as a red river. So hemoglobin it is. This hemoglobin is a conjugated protein. Conjugated protein means it contains the two parts. One is a protein part. Here it is a protein part. This is known as globin, protein part. And this protein part is made up of 4 polypeptide chains. Usme 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. To this protein part, with the alpha and beta chains, CO2 will be going to form a temporary bond. This is about a major part, proteinaceous part, that is globin ke bare mein. Next one is another part of hemoglobin, that is a heme. It is contains the iron. Heme, it contains the iron as a central atom. Each and every polypeptide chain contains the one iron. So here oxygen will be going to form the bond with this iron or central particle, which is called as a heme. So heme plus globin, hemoglobin, ये दोनों particles or parts will be present in a hemoglobin molecule. That's why it is known as a conjugated protein बोलते, इसको conjugated protein बोलते. So conjugated protein hemoglobin, it contains the two parts, heme and globin. Globin is a protein part and heme is a non-protein part. This protein part made up of 2 alpha chains, 2 beta chains. A alpha beta chain say carbon dioxide will be going to form the bond, and iron heme say oxygen will be going to form the bond, that is ferrous ferric. Okay, so is this oxygenation process honga. Okay, now structure of which one structure of hemoglobin here. So this is RBC. This RBC contains the hemoglobin. One hemoglobin molecule का structure वैसा होगा. इसमें ये opposite chains जो है ना, they contains the similar structure, and opposite these are contains the similar structure. Alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1 and beta 2 chains will be. So each and every chain contains the centrally which one red color pigment here it is. This is iron 1, 2, 3 and 4 heme particles iron. So this is a Fe plus 2 condition iron. Okay, with this iron oxygen will be going to form the bond, and with this which one polypeptide chains carbon dioxide is going to form the bond. So one hemoglobin molecule can carry the maximum 4 oxygen molecules, okay, and 4 कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड मॉलिक्यूल्स. एटम्स है तो उसका नंबर ऑक्सीजन का 8 होगा. सो O2 है ना. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. दिस इज अबाउट कौन सा हीमोग्लोबिन का बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. हियर वी शुड नो दैट वन हीमोग्लोबिन मॉलिक्यूल is contains the 4 iron and 4 polypeptide chains which forms the globin. Okay, this is the main thing. Now we can see here hemoglobin is going to form a temporary bond oxygenation process where it is in alveoli. Alveoli में क्या होगा? Partial presence of O2 is more. So in the alveoli of lungs, this hemoglobin forms the temporary bond with oxygen, and it is going to forms as a oxyhemoglobin HbO2. It is reversible, where in tissues PO2 is less and PCO2 is more. There the bond will be going to easily broken, and O2 will be released, and those are available to the O2 molecules will be available to cells or tissues. They are going to make use of this one. So this is the major method. In this method only 97% of oxygen is going to carried. Let us see that next slide. Now देखो इधर one hemoglobin molecule, इधर ये chains alpha beta chains. These chains they contains the iron here 1, 2, 3, 4. So here 1, 2, 3 and 4. Those are oxygen atoms will be forms the bond with this one. कौन सा heme iron से. So when this iron will be going to not forms with any bond with the any oxygen atoms, this is it is known as reduced hemoglobin. So that is deoxyhemoglobin. It is known as deoxyhemoglobin, and now it is forms the bond with only one O2 molecule. So this is 25% saturated, and now here 2 O2 molecules is there. This is 50% saturated. Now here 3 O2 molecules, here 75% saturated, and next one here 4 O2, that is 100% saturated. 100% saturated. Okay, so we can see that here red color. So why we are mentioned here red color बोले तो when hemoglobin forms the bond with oxygen, it is turns into bright red color. When it is going to forms the bond with carbon dioxide, turns into dark red color. If we observe it here, it is iron, and it is forms the bond with the O2. Okay, oxyhemoglobin. When it is going to forms the bond with CO, carbon monoxide also we can see that furtherly. Okay. Transport of oxygen till it is completed, but this is affected by some factors. Those factors are most important factor here. It is most important factor, that is PO2. So oxygen transportation is affected by itself. It is where PO2 is more, there easily it going to forms the bond with the hemoglobin and forms oxyhemoglobin. Other important factors are like this one, that is P CO2, partial pressures of carbon dioxide. Next one, H plus ions, and another one is temperature. So these are the three other important factors and one most important factor. So oxygen transportation is affected by main factor, that is most important factor, partial pressure of oxygen itself. This is the most important. And next one is there. Other important factors are 3, P, CO2, H plus ions, and next one is temperature. Okay. Next we can see the other slide. ये factors हमें अभी mention किया ना, so how they are going to works on association dissociation of oxyhemoglobin, we can see that with the help of graph. This is called as oxygen dissociation curve बोलते, oxygen dissociation curve. So this oxygen dissociation curve here forms the roughly S shape. It is roughly S shape. That's why it is called as a sigmoid curve बोलते. A oxygen dissociation curve will be a sigmoid shape, S-shaped sigmoid curve बोलते. So how it will be? Then when oxygen partial pressures will be gradually increases and percentage of saturation also going to gradually increases. So when it is 100, it is also maximum 100 at this point. उसके आगे saturation नहीं होते. When partial pressures will be decreases, then percentage of saturation also going to gradually decreases. So finally it will give a roughly S-shaped. That's why this is called as a sigmoid curve. It is okay. इधर हम x-axis में देते partial pressure of oxygen and y-axis में लेते कौन सा percentage of saturation of hemoglobin. This is now we are going to see that another slide in detail. See this one. This is important for us. So now either partial pressures, as usual we are going to take in partial pressure of oxygen and here percentage of saturation of hemoglobin. When percentage of saturation of hemoglobin will be increases is when oxygen partial pressures will be going to increases gradually, both are going to increases. Okay. Now here 100%, 100 ppm. So sorry, here oxygen partial pressure 100 mmHg it is. At the 100 mmHg, percentage of saturation also here it is 100. Percentage of saturation also 100 it is. Okay. Now, when we can take that deoxygenated blood or blood at the tissues, rest tissues, then here it is 40 mmHg. 40 mm of Hg बोले तो इधर 100 से 40 को आ गया. Then percentage of saturation also here it is इतना graph. It is 40 PO2 indicates that here 75% saturation only. And when we are going to take that nearly here it is a 28 mmHg. This is called as a P50. Okay, P50 बोले तो percentage of saturation of hemoglobin 50 it is. 50% saturation simply we can say that. At this partial pressure, it may be given in some books as 27, in some books is a 28. So at this 28 mm of Hg PO2, the percentage of saturation how much it is 50%. So that's why it is called as a P50 बोलते. P50 it is known as. So P50 बोले तो क्या है, हर एक hemoglobin molecule can carries the 2 oxygen molecules it is. ओके नेक्स्ट उसके भी पार्शियल प्रेशर कम हो गया देन एट दी टिश्यूज सो टिश्यूज पर्टिकुलरली कौन सा एक्टिवली वर्किंग टिश्यूज लाइक skeletal muscles if we are going to take this one so here nearly 30% saturation when percentage of saturation partial pressure is 20 mm of Hg it is nearly 30% saturated. So from this one what we can understand is partial pressure is greater and percentage of saturation also more it is. Then partial pressure is decreased and percentage of saturation also gradually decrease. And here one more thing we have to remember कौन सा ये P50 value. P50 is not mentioned in NCERT लेकिन P50 क्या है बोले तो 50% saturation or saturation of hemoglobin percentage 650 it is. Okay, ये 50% saturation कहाँ होते that is 28 mm of HgPO2 के पास इतना saturation होते means here two oxygen molecules will be going to forms the bond with the hemoglobin and इधर तक आने तो 75% बोले तो previously we saw that 3 oxygen molecules will be going to forms the bond with the hemoglobin इधर ये तो 4 oxygen molecules will be going to forms the bond with the hemoglobin. So next slide. So this is also important concept NCERT में नहीं है लेकिन it is linked with NCERT बोर्स इफेक्ट हॉल्डन इफेक्ट वो बोर्स इफेक्ट हॉल्डन इफेक्ट के बारे में नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में हम देख लेंगे. अभी शिफ्टिंग ऑफ ग्राफ टुवर्ड्स टू विच वन राइट साइड टुवर्ड्स टू लेफ्ट साइड कैसे शिफ्ट होते. सो लेट अस टेक दैट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इन टिश्यूज कंडीशंस क्या होगा. इन टिश्यूज पार्शियल प्रेशर्स PCO2 is more and temperature is more and next one is H plus ions ka concentration also more. These factors already we discussed this one. These three factors will be favors the which one dissociation of HbO2 dissociation of HbO2 is favored. बोले तो oxyhemoglobin will be going to dissociate and hemoglobin forms the bond with carbon dioxide. So if we see this graph is normally carbon dioxide and low blood pH and next one is high carbon dioxide normal blood pH it is. So tissues में high blood pH होगा ना, so that's why partial pressures of CO2 temperature and which one H plus ions का concentration ज़्यादा होते इधर. Now we can see that tissues में हमको मालूम है PCO2 temperature H plus ions का concentration ज़्यादा होते. These all factors favors the dissociation of HbO2 means here simply we can remember one thing is PCO2 ज़्यादा है तो PO2 कम होगा. So now percentage of saturation automatically will be going to decreases. So percentage of saturation will be going to decreases. That means the graph will be going to shifted to right side. So shifted to right. That is in tissues. In tissues, the graph will be shifted to right side क्योंकि इधर partial pressures of CO2 and temperature H plus ions are more. That's why these are going to favor the dissociation. So that's why percentage of saturation will be going to automatically decreases. When the same thing we can reach to here at the alveoli. Alveoli में देखने तो क्या है. alveoli में conditions ऐसा होगा PO2 is more and pH also more and the another conditions those are PCO2 and H plus and temperature is less. So these all factors are less which are more at tissues. So the same factors in tissues, they favors the dissociation of HbO2. Now these factors are less in their quantity or concentration, and opposite factors, which one is in tissues less, those are more in alveoli. So these factors will be going to favors the association of which one, HbO2, association of HbO2. So means oxyhemoglobin form karte. Now automatically what happens, percentage of saturation will be going to increases kyunki partial pressures increase ho raha hai na, that's why the percentage of saturation also going to increases, that's why the graph shifted to left side, left. So tissues में graph will be shifted to right and alveoli में graph will be shifted to left. These points compulsory you have to remember. This is indicates the which one, Bohr's effect at tissues. Bohr's effect बोले तो क्या है? So the effect of PCO2 temperature and H plus ions concentration on the dissociation of HbO2. That is only Bohr's effect. And opposite to this one, Holden effect. Holden effect बोले तो क्या है, कैसे? So here HbO2 dissociation favored by PCO2. Here it is HbO2 association is favored by the PO2. That is only called as a Holden effect. So this is a Bohr's effect and this is a Holden effect. So thoda sa detailedly we can see that in next slide. This is Bohr's effect, Holden effect. So what is this here? Bohr's effect is increase in CO2 concentration results in increasing dissociation of oxyhemoglobin. So already we discussed this one. Increased, which one increase हो गया इधर? CO2 concentration, PCO2 increase हो गया. Then it is favors the dissociation of HbO2. So this is at which one? At the level of tissues only here. At the level of tissues it is. Okay, this is the main thing from the Bohr's effect. And Holden effect में देखने तो opposite, vice versa these two are. Okay, so Holden effect क्या बोलते हैं? Increasing in O2 concentration results in increased dissociation of carbaminohemoglobin. So here PO2 was increased, then it is favors the dissociation of HbCO2, carbaminohemoglobin. इधर क्या बोला? Increased PCO2 can dissociate the HbO2. इधर increased O2 can dissociate the HbCO2. This is the main difference. And second point क्या है? In tissues, adding of CO2, tissues हमेशा, cells हमेशा क्या करते हैं? ऑक्सीजन को यूटिलाइज करके, so oxygenation करके क्या होगा? कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड will be going to releases. Then CO2 to the blood. हमेशा tissues में CO2 is going to add it to the blood and facilitate unloading of O2 by Bohr's effect. So here CO2 हमेशा produce करते रहते हैं ना, so then easily O2 will be going to dissociate and it is available to the cells. Cells make use of this one, again produces the continuously which one? Carbon dioxide. In alveoli, so this will be occurred at the alveoli. In alveoli क्या होगा? PO2 ज़्यादा है ना, addition of O2 to the blood facilitates the addition of PO2 ज़्यादा है तो automatically क्या होगा? HbCO2 will be going to dissociate and HbO2 is going to formed. So this is only Holden effect and Bohr's effect. Very simple thing. It is going to states as what it can states is effect of PCO2, H plus ions and temperature. ये factors का effect on dissociation of HbO2. If these factors are increased, HbO2 is going to dissociate. ये इतना सही है तो this is also correct. What is that is more PO2 and pH can favors the dissociation of HbCO2. So this is a Holden effect and Bohr's effect. I hope you understood this one. Next slide is yes, maximum here कौन सा ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ ऑक्सीजन वाज कंप्लीटेड. दिस इज द लास्ट पॉइंट. 2019 में ये थोड़ा सा न्यूमेरिकल प्रॉब्लम दे दिया. ओके ये इंफॉर्मेशन एनसीईआरटी में क्लियरली नहीं दे दिया. एनसीईआरटी में दे दिया क्या है 5 ml of O2 will be 5 ml of O2 will be delivered by every 100 ml of oxygenated blood to the tissues. That is only clearly NCERT में mention किया. So under normal physiological condition it is. Exercise करने के समय में ये थोड़ा सा increase हो सकते. Now here these points we have to remember for examination purpose. First one kaun sa here it is. So that is first point here. 100 ml of blood contains 100 ml of blood contains, as we know that 12 to 16 grams of which one hemoglobin that is average 15 grams they given 15 grams. Okay na, you have to remember this point. And next one, second point is either 100 ml में average 15 grams of hemoglobin है तो 1 gram of hemoglobin can carries 1.34 ml of O2. 1.34 ml of O2 it is. Now 100 ml of blood contains the 15 grams of 100 ml of blood contains 15 grams of hemoglobin. ये 15 grams of hemoglobin can carries what is the amount of oxygen is either 1 gram of hemoglobin can carries the 1.34 ml of oxygen into average कितना ले दिया 15, then it is equal to 20 ml. ये 20 ml में कितना सेल्स को डिलीवर करते बोले तो 5 ml it is. 5 ml out of 20 ml 5 ml बोले तो कितना 25% will be going to deliver to tissues and remaining जो है ना this remaining quantity that is 75% will be acts as a reserve volume in the blood only. And what is the purpose of this reserve volume is by chance any time the person met with accidentally any these cases now stop breathing or heart stops to beat. ये conditions में up to 4 to 5 minutes a reserve volume of blood will be going to available to the cells. Then after that it will be going to zero. Then organism is going to dead. Okay. Next transportation of carbon dioxide, that is CO2 transportation it is. So CO2 transportation as we mentioned earlier, it is through plasma. Through plasma, how much it is? 7% only. Through plasma, 7% it is. Through plasma, 7%. Next one. Yes, 7% here we mentioned with the same color. That is dissolved form. Dissolved form में 7%. Through plasma as a dissolved form बोलते. Next one. Second method है through RBC. Through RBC, how much it is? 20 to 25%. 20 to 25%. So here where it is? Yes, as carbaminohemoglobin, that is 20 to 25% it is. Okay. So why I'm mention these things? ये color change करके मैं always it is going to highlighting बोले तो ये important है. Match the following में दे सकते. इसलिए मैं इसको हाईलाइट कर रहा है ज़्यादा. नाउ इधर देखो ये कलर है ना, सो दैट इज पिंक कलर जैसा. सो दिस कलर विल बी ऑक्युपाइज द मैक्सिमम दैट इज 70%. ये 70% जो है ना दैट इज एज बाइकार्बोनेट आयन्स. सो हियर टोटली दिस इज bicarbonate ions. 70% it is. 70% will be going to transfer. So major method कौन सा? As a bicarbonates. And minor method कौन सा? That is as a dissolved form through plasma it is. You remember that if they ask the question is total quantity of CO2 transported through plasma. Through plasma bole to we have to consider that either 7% and here 70%. 70%. क्योंकि बोले तो this method will be going to starts with RBCs, लेकिन bicarbonate ions will be going to shifted to plasma, plasma से फिर भी transport होते, इसलिए ये 70%, ये 7%, totally 77% total quantity of or percentage of CO2 transported by the plasma बोले तो ये 77% लेना ही. So these are the three methods. Let us see that first method through plasma 7% high it is going to transfer. So here as dissolved CO2 through plasma. So about 7% will be transfer here. Simple thing here, CO2 is able to dissolve in water, as previously we saw that in exchange of gases 20 to 25 times greater solubility it has, so it can easily dissolve in water with the help of which one, carbonic anhydrase. Outside of the body also, already I mentioned that is called as a physiological solution. Outside of the body also this process will be taken place, but it will be negligible, less it is. Now this carbonic anhydrase will be going to catalyzes this reaction थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा हो सकते in living organisms in the presence of catalyzer. So this CO2 will be dissolved in water and forms like H2CO3, that is nothing but carbonic acid will be going to form. So this is very simple reaction. ये furtherly third method में repeat होगा. Okay, remember this. Now next method, ये method complete हो गया. Next method, as carbamino compounds are through RBC. Carbamino compounds are through RBC. Now we can say here, yes, either as we discussed that 20 to 25% of CO2 carried by the hemoglobin as a carbamino hemoglobin. Be careful beta, here CO2 है तो carbamino hemoglobin. Okay, कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड है तो कार्बोक्सी हीमोग्लोबिन होगा. Okay, now second point here what they mention is in RBC CO2 combines with amino group. Previously we mentioned that amino group. So amino group कहाँ रहते हैं इधर amino group बोले तो simply we can write here one amino acid का formula. This is acidic carboxylic group, hydrogen and functional group, and here amino group. This amino group say carbon dioxide will be going to forms the bond. So that is a carbamino compound will be going to form HbNHCOO. So this is carbamino compound will be going to formed. So already we discussed iron atom से form करते oxygen bond, लेकिन carbon dioxide will be going to form the bond with amino group of polypeptide chains, which are the parts of which one globin protein. So this is a second method as carbamino compounds are through RBC. So finally this amino group say carbon dioxide will be going to form the bond and it will be forms as a carbamino compound. Okay. Next इधर देखो, इधर ये कौन सा, दिस इज द आयरन एटम्स. नाउ ये ऑक्सीजन नहीं है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड विल बी गोइंग टू फॉर्म्स द बॉन्ड विथ नॉट आयरन, इट इज गोइंग टू फॉर्म्स द बॉन्ड विथ दिस पॉलीपेप्टाइड चेन्स. इसमें अमीनो एसिड्स होगा, वो अमीनो ग्रुप से बॉन्ड फॉर्म करते. सो हियर इट इज iron CO2. Yes, this is a carbamino hemoglobin. अमीनो ग्रुप से बॉन्ड फॉर्म करते. कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड हियर, इफेक्ट ऑफ कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड. सो इफेक्ट ऑफ कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड कैसे होते, ये देखो नॉर्मल आरबीसी से ऑक्सीजन डायरेक्टली बॉन्ड फॉर्म किया. नाउ दिस इज आरबीसी विच इज फॉर्म्ड बॉन्ड ऑलरेडी विथ विच वन, that is carbon monoxide. कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड से बॉम्ब पॉइंट किया, इस देखो कैसे कलर में. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड पॉइजनिंग. ये कंडीशन में क्या होगा, दिस आरबीसी डज नॉट फॉर्म्स द बॉन्ड विथ एनी अदर गैसेस दैट मे बी O2 और CO2. So up to 120 days it will be going to holds this one. At the time of disposing in the liver or spleen, this will be going to detaches from that. So this RBC totally engaged with the carbon monoxide. So this is leads to reduce in the PO2 in blood. It is becomes like a poison. So pura RBC is engaged with the carbon monoxide, then there is no chance to formation bond with oxygen. Oxygen का supply कम होगा, then cells will be going to suffer from the suffocation. That is oxygen supply नहीं होते, energy नहीं होते, cells slowly undergoes inactivation, coma condition, बाद में मर जाएगा. Okay, so this is carbon monoxide poisoning. So here carbon monoxide this is. Okay, now this is known as carboxyhemoglobin. कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड से बॉन्ड फॉर्म किया तो कार्बमिनो हीमोग्लोबिन इट इज. नाउ नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. थर्ड मेथड एज bicarbonate ions, HCO3 ions, HCO3 minus ions it is. So through this method 70% it is 70% of CO2 is going to transported. So either we can explain this entire concept with the help of this equation and two additional concepts, that is a chloride shift, reverse chloride shift. With the help of diagrams I will explain in the next slides. So here already I said first method में थोड़ा सा ध्यान देना ही, ये repeat होगा. Now here the condition will be CO2 carbon dioxide able to dissolve in water. This reaction will be catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase and forms the carbonic acid. This carbonic acid in presence of same enzyme, immediately it is going to divided as bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. And this is reversible reaction. This bicarbonate ions, hydrogen ions can form the H2CO3, that is carbonic acid, in presence of same enzyme. And this carbonic acid in presence of same enzyme can divides as a H2O and CO2. It is enters into the alveoli. There onwards it may be escape. So this is as in the form of bicarbonate ions method. So we can see that here majorly 70% क्योम आरबीसी से ट्रांसफर होते, 7% ओनली क्योम प्लाज्मा में बोले तो दिस एंजाइम कार्बोनिक एनहाइड्रेज इज low in quantity in blood plasma, but here hundreds of times it is greater. That's why this RBCs can carry the 70%, hundreds of times greater than the plasma. Next slide. This is in tissues chloride shift phenomenon बोलते. ये क्या है chloride shift in tissues? So in tissues always oxygen will be taken by the cells and it is make utilized by the cells, and carbon dioxide will be going to produce, and this carbon dioxide get diffused into blood plasma से अंदर जाते, then it is going to dissolve. This reaction catalyzed by, already we saw this one, carbonic anhydrase, and it will be going to form the H2CO3, that is nothing but carbonic acid. This carbonic acid immediately going to divides as HCO3 minus ions, H plus ions. These HCO3 minus ions will be continuously a process होते रहते. Then due to this continuity, then increasing of anion cations both will be going to rise. Now this raised HCO3 minus ions will be going to shifted outside of HCO3 minus ions, shifted outside of RBCs, that is into which one, blood plasma, and to maintain the electrolyte balance, same number of Cl minus ions will be shifted into the cytoplasm of RBC from plasma. This phenomenon is known as क्लोराइड शिफ्ट बोलते हैं इसको. chloride shift or Hamburger phenomenon बोलते हैं इसको, Hamburger phenomenon or chloride shift it is. So what happens here it is, once carbon dioxide released by the cells, it is get diffused into blood plasma and onwards it is diffused into RBC cytoplasm. There it is going to dissolve in water. This reaction catalyzed by the carbonic anhydrase and forms the H2CO3, and this is immediately divides as bicarbonate ions, H plus ions. This is a continuous process. By that, these anion cations will be going to increase in their quantity. Then HCO3 ions, some of the HCO3 ions will be going to shifted outside, means from the RBC cytoplasm to plasma of blood. At the same time, to maintain the electrolyte balance, electrical balance, so Cl minus ions will be shifted inside. This is called as a chloride shift. Shifting of chloride ions from the plasma of blood to cytoplasm of RBC. You have to remember this point. Next, फर्दर स्लाइड में ये टिश्यूज में हो गया. नाउ फर्दर स्लाइड में क्या है, इधर सेम आरबीसी कैरी द कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड टुवर्ड्स टू alveoli. इधर alveoli है, alveoli. इन द alveoli व्हाट हैपेंस हियर देख लेंगे. सो alveoli में कंडीशन चेंज होगा ना. P here PO2 is greater. That's why this oxygen will be going to diffuse into RBC, and here previously if we observed bicarbonate ions बाहर shift हो गए ना. What about H plus ions? These H plus ions in presence of more concentrated or a high level of H plus ions, they will be dissociate the bond of HbO2 and forms the HHB, hemoglobinic acid. Okay, so then this O2 which is released, it is make available to the cells, and cells will be going to make use of this oxygen, again produces the carbon dioxide. Now we are going to discussing about this H plus ions here. What happens? So these H plus ions will be, these H plus ions are going to combines with bicarbonate ions. In alveoli conditions are different. In alveoli conditions are PO2 ज़्यादा है and pH is more. Then this O2 will be get diffused into RBCs, and at a high partial presence of PO2, then this bond in between hemoglobin and hydrogen ions will be going to deviate and forms the HbO2 and H plus ions. These H plus ions combine with the bicarbonate ions in presence of carbonic anhydrase. ये bicarbonate ions कहाँ से आ गया? They are came from the which one? Plasma of blood. Okay, so then they combinedly forms the which one? Carbonic acid. ये carbonic acid in presence of carbonic anhydrase again divided as H2O and CO2, and this CO2 will be going to get diffused into alveoli. From onwards it will be escaped outside. So here what happens, previously bicarbonate ions बाहर चले गया, then chloride ions will be shifted inside. Chloride ions shifted inside, we said that is the which one? Chloride shift. But now bicarbonate ions are not going to shifting outside, they are shifting inside. Then previously जो chloride ions अंदर आ गया, those are sending outside. This is called as a reverse chloride shift. Reverse chloride shift. So chloride shift occur at the tissues, reverse chloride shift occur at the alveoli. Okay, so next slide. ये थोड़ा सा एक्स्ट्रा इन्फॉर्मेशन है, क्लोराइड शिफ्ट, रिवर्स क्लोराइड शिफ्ट, बट रिलेटेड टू NCERT. So final conclusion is every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood can approximately delivers the how much it is 4 ml of CO2 to the alveoli. Onwards it will be going to escape to outside environment. वही ऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड है तो 5 ml ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, उसका कैलकुलेशन भी हम देखा. नाउ फाइनली कंक्लूजन इज हियर we can see from the alveoli, इधर ऑक्सीजन का पार्शियल प्रेशर ज़्यादा होते हैं ना, ऑक्सीजन will be transported through the blood in two forms, that is as a dissolved form of oxygen 3% and as a oxyhemoglobin 97% through the RBC. Now ये हार्ट को आते, हार्ट से टिश्यूज को पंप करते, टिश्यूज में पार्शियल प्रेजेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन कम है ना, सो देन इट इज गोइंग टू रिलीज ये 3% and 97% will be going to release and it will be exchanged with which one, carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide here 70% as bicarbonate ions, 20 to 25% as which one, carbamino compounds, 7% as in the form of dissolved. So this is going to reach to heart, heart से फिर भी lungs को आते, lungs में it is going to exchanges and it will be sends outside. So simply this is the transportation of oxygen and कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, दोनों ऑक्सीजन से बॉन्ड फॉर्म किया तो रेड कलर ब्लड एंड कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड से बॉन्ड फॉर्म किया तो दैट इज डार्क कलर, जनरली डायग्राम्स में ब्लू कलर से मेंशन करते. सो दिस इज द ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ गैसेस.